Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement. Good day again, viewers, and welcome to the program, Agriculture on the Move. My name is Philip Sidney, your host. Today we are discussing cocoa production, Theobroma cacao. That is the scientific name that's known worldwide. And today we're looking at the cocoa industry, what it was and where we are today. And to enhance that discussion, with me is Mr. Jeremiah Louis Fernand, better known as Jerry, as I know him a long time. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I know you've taken your busy schedule to be here for us today. I know how busy you are, sir. Okay, help us, to go back in time with the cocoa industry in St. Lucia. I remember in the 60s, we had cocoa estates being established. I can remember quite a few estates, like the Fondue estate, especially in Soufrière. We had Rabot, we have the Union Vale, we have Esperance, you have Emerald, La Dauphin, and a number of estates in Soufrière because of the ecological zone in Soufrière where cocoa can do very well. It's around the island. I mean, we had Mico, we had Dennery Valley, we also had Babono, we had pockets like Millet. Again, those farmers produced cocoa over the years, and it was meaningful to our GDP in St. Lucia because the farmers were making money in those days. I'm sure you remember those days.
Well, yes, to be honest with you, I do not know too much about the 60s, as you'd very well appreciate at that point in time.
You're not?
I probably was born in 1951. I was probably very young, but I know of them. Even right here, as you speak, my mind was traveling, and I'm thinking right here in Castries, the Clavier estate,
right.
up in
yes.
Entrepot.
The whole of Entrepot.
Right.
Correct.
I heard of those. Heard of those places, and people speak highly of them. Like, for example, Branny. Eric Branford would speak a lot about those things when we do archaeological and historical stuff.
Right.
But my brother actually managed Union Vale for a while for the Johnsons.
All right.
And I think that's when the production became its highest.
Okay.
That's rolling.
Yeah, but Union Vale, I was told, is the largest cocoa estate in the Caribbean,
I'm not surprised.
Yes.
I mean, when you drive through there, it's really a joy driving and watching those trees and the way they're well cared.
Yeah.
But I know Agriculturist Association was the main person for buying the cocoa on island.
Yes.
Yeah,
because what is to happen, I remember there were cocoa fermentaries established. I know two of them. One was in the Mabia Valley.
That was in recent times.
Okay.
But prior to that, persons did their own fermenting, and hopefully it would be good enough for marketing and buying.
Okay.
But for example, the one in the Mabia Valley, I know was controlled by one Mr. Noble.
Mr. Noble, yes.
I actually sold him cocoa at that point in time.
I remember him.
But I do not know what became of that fermentary.
Yeah, it's all
but where
gone.
I came in the picture is when Pat Joseph, processors Jean-Baptiste, we decided to try and form an organization we call Premium Cocoa Producers Association.
Okay.
But prior to Premium Cocoa Producers Association, people just used to have their cocoa, harvest it, and sell it to persons who would make just cocoa sticks for making cocoa tea and so.
Oh yes. In fact, cocoa sticks now it's
very common and it's in demand.
But what I remember also before continuing, I remember the propagation station at Union was established, and it used to be called Cocoa Center because they used to produce cocoa seedlings. They used to propagate it vegetatively, and potted and then given to the farmers in those days, right? In fact, up to now, there is what we call a germplasm bank next to Dim Paulette Lucy School at Union.
Okay.
It's still there.
Okay.
So if we needed to go and get the various varieties for propagation, you can go there and get them. So those were the olden days. And then, of course, we know what happened to the cocoa industry in St. Lucia. With the advent of
banana industry, right? Bananas
Yeah.
stormed the whole industry, and then bananas
they cut
really took
cocoa,
over.
and of course, you can understand why, eh? Because the banana industry it was a revenue stream every week, as opposed to the cocoa was
shorter term. Shorter term and continuous. There was no season, whatsoever for bananas.
That's very correct. So you had a weekly sale, and then of course from the cocoa was once a year, basically, and but cocoa still remain. The persons like the Rabot Estate still remain, and they're doing very, very well. So right now, I remember we used to export, and our cocoa was used to flavor other cocoa
because it's a premium cocoa.
Premium cocoa. I remember that very, very, very clearly. From via Argus Association for export to London, I think.
Yes, London and the US.
And the US, definitely. So right now, the government have seen reasons why we should continue the cocoa industry. I'm sure prior to this project we will be speaking on in a while, we have had persons involved in the processing of cocoa and doing chocolates.
Yes.
We have what they call them the rural women in Angers. So you have the Miku dark chocolate,
right? And
we have Hotel Chocolat now, right? You have Fondue,
Caco
Saint-Lucie, Jade Mountain, I think.
They're doing something, and then you have
even Jalousie now here. They're building something also.
Caribbean cocoa. Caribbean chocolate.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a demand for cocoa. Cocoa stick now is becoming, premium in the market now. I mean, a lot of people are selling cocoa to Martinique.
Yeah.
Because, and of course, our local use for cocoa here is also
very high.
Very, very, very high. Yeah. So the demand for cocoa is high. How long yet you started your cocoa plantation?
Well, I've always been a tree crop farmer and vegetable. When I say vegetable, ground provisions. I actually bought from my brother Rollin part of the estate of Fond Estate that had already grown on it cocoa, about 10 acres I think it was about in cocoa. But at that point in time, cocoa was not in demand. Imagine selling cocoa at 50 cents a pound. Wet. So that's how I used to sell it to Noble and other persons, and it was not a crop that people were very keen about until when Hotel Chocolat came in. I used to sell to Leighton Lamontagne also.
Right.
Leighton Lamontagne. And when Hotel Fondue, when Hotel Chocolat came into being, and I was introduced to Phil Buckley. Phil and I established a very good relationship until he fell sick and he had to airlift him up to London, and he didn't recover from that ailment, unfortunately. But I continue to represent Hotel Chocolat in the East, establishing farmers and working with them and letting the farmers know what's going on, and also to negotiate on behalf of the farmers for better pricing, better conditions, and so on with Hotel Chocolat. And it moved from $1.50 until it went up to $3 a pound wet. So I think that was more encouraging to persons when they realize you can sell and get your monies almost immediately, like a week or so after. So farmers became very interested in looking at planting cocoa as a crop. And that's where we started. So my Pat Joseph, Processor Jean-Baptiste, and other members, we formed sort of a committee. And we had the committee going, we established the bylaws, we had it registered. We got assistance from Mr. Rambali, and we registered the company. But when we began operating, we realized perhaps there was a better need for us to do a cooperative rather than a business establishment. But in 2018, to be honest with you, I felt very tired. And I felt I was perhaps maybe doing more than I can handle at the time for the energy level I was having at that age.
Okay.
So I decided to decline re-election and allow someone else to run the organization.
Okay.
And there was Mr. Bissett was the president, and his vice president became. So in 2018 we had the election, and since then the organization has not run properly. We actually developed a nursery in Monrepo. We leased a part of a property from Rollin for Estate or Davy Company Limited, and we got support from the Jeff Project. So with the Jeff Project, we were able to excavate and establish a plot of land, and we had a nursery there, planting cocoa, citrus, you name it, we had it been there. And we got involved also with Margaret. We partnered with Margaret Committee, the Margaret Rural Committee, and to organize, as it were, the riverbank stabilization.
Right.
Because you could realize, you could understand, anytime there was heavy rain, Margaret community was affected. Until one day when I passed in 2014 and I saw how badly they were affected in 2013 from the flood, December flood in 2013, I decided to offer assistance. And my wife agreed to support me in that area. So every Saturday in 2014, from July 14th until October that year before Journée Creole, I used to have a crew in the river every Saturday. We had wood we found from since Debbie.
Wow.
And then I contacted our now Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Prosper. So forestry came and gave us assistance by way of giving us a very long chain that could cut the wood because the chainsaws we had were too small. And what I would do is I would bring up tires, because you can appreciate the wood's wet, it wouldn't burn easily. And that's how we were able to clear the river during that period of time, up to where there is a swamp. Now, at that point, we had funds available because a geological study was done by Mrs. Suma.
Yes.
Elizabeth Charles Suma. She did the study, and we presented it to Jeff, and then they assisted us by way of finance to excavate that. And that's where we ended. But the persons who were handling the organization properly did not do that properly. You see, the thing is, different leaders have different interests, and that's what I always try to emphasize in St. Lucia in organizations that I serve. We need to understand your interest or your choice as a leader will not be as another leader. And that's why it's good to have different leaders so things can move on, and you can develop persons in different areas that's needed for the growth of the organization. Right. So what happened at that point, I'd already contacted Sadu, and Sadu was willing to go ahead and give a quote for clearing because there's an area before the sea where it's a swamp, and everything collects in there, and it's very large. Very, very large. But if only we could clear it, you'd find when there's a flood, because what we began seeing when we cleared the river, the sand, the silt and all that was going down, and you began seeing stones that you were not seeing. So every Saturday when we come, we're seeing something new. And at that point we realized, and I made the recommendation to the guys, don't plant bamboo by the river bank. Bamboo, for me, I recommend it in gorges where there's a precipice in dips and things like that. But in the river bank, when the river comes and it takes the bamboo away, it takes the entire stock and everything and go with it, because that's what happened to me on my side.
I remember going by you. I remember because you lost about almost an acre of land, I think.
Yes, the river came in one night. That's when we first had the Denry flood.
The flood, yes, I remember that.
And then the other bad thing about the bamboo that affects river flow is that if you have it on both sides of the river, when the bamboo gets tall, it falls like this.
Right.
And it laces right across the river, and it avoids the flow of water, and it traps all the wood and things that's supposed to be going down. Because when we did that, that's when I realized bamboo is a very technical thing to cut, you know. You have to know how to cut bamboo to cut it. So when we did that, I learned a lot of things in that particular river. So for example, the people that were being affected by the river when they had heavy floods with their cocoa and so, they were not being affected since 2014. After 2014, we have not had any serious flood in the river.
So right now, the cocoa you have on your farm right now, but how many acres of cocoa you have?
I would think the 10 plus maybe I put another maybe 5 to 6 acres, so maybe like about 16 acres.
Okay.
About that.
Okay. But are you hoping to establish new acreage, or
No.
you just continue?
What I have to do now is to rehabilitate.
Okay.
Why I say so? Because since the bad weather, you have to understand we've had floods that affected the cocoa, maybe destroy them, throw them down, broke them down, or you'd have the sun in the drought that would kill the trees.
It's too hot.
So you got two extremes. And for me, last year was perhaps maybe one of my worst years in the cocoa industry, because we had too much of a long spell of rain. You could not do fungicide treatment. You couldn't fertilize. You couldn't prune because the trees are wet. You couldn't go in the rain with the tools because they're electrically operated. So we were affected. You cannot do drainage. You can't do anything. You can't do weed control. So everything was a mess.
Okay.
So yeah, I got a lot of black pod, the black pod that affects the tree from fungus. So I wasn't able to do applications. But this year I'm trying my best to try and be on top of things a bit to see how.
So that takes me straight into the new project.
Yes.
Because the ministry right now has a new project, which is a 3-year project. It began about a year ago. And what they're doing, there are 2 factors to it. One, there's supposed to be new establishment of new fields, and also the rehabilitation of existing fields. I think they're hoping to rehabilitate 168 acres.
Okay. Under that project.
Under that project. Okay. It's a $1.4 million project. Okay. And I'm happy for that, because it means that every cocoa farmer in St. Lucia, have an opportunity to rehabilitate without actually spending any money. You understand? So in regions, I think 1, 2, 7, and 8, you have a crew, right? That are doing the actual pruning. Okay. And you also have region 5 and 6. There's another crew. All right, and then they have in 3 and 4, there's a crew. So they're tackling every farmer with cocoa, right, who have existing cocoa fields to at least get it back into production.
Right.
Okay? So have you been benefiting from that? Not yet?
Yes. Who came to my farm is Levi. I'm not too sure what his.
Yes, he is one of those that
he used to be the
pruning.
region.
Yeah,
he
he's
used to be in
retired
region
now, but
4. He's
yes.
retired.
Yes.
Well, he came with a crew, and I brought in some people with me also. And I had my son Michael, who also was part of the crew, and who likes to get involved in agriculture.
So what they did for you?
We did pruning. We also did some fungicide treatment because he had co-side, and he did I think some basket for improving the flower production. Flowering.
Right.
So that's what we did that. But I think the pruning part was the key element of the team. And when we saw the pruning, we were wondering, but wow, it looks like the trees will not recover from that kind of hard pruning. But my thing is the trees have recovered, they flower now, and I now understand the benefit of the pruning, because what happened is I think cocoa do not like too much shade. They like shade, but they don't like too much shade.
Okay.
And if you have the trees too clustered, what will happen is it will affect flowering. And you'll find, because of the moisture as a result of the clustering of the branches, that's my opinion and observation, that fungicide will set in, and as it set in, it will affect the fruit when it come out of flower and generate black pod.
Okay. So that's what you have experienced?
I think yes. So what we did is we tried to replicate what has happened with Levi and his crew to carry it along in the wider field.
Okay.
Because we did a certain area as a model, and we were paying attention to that model to see what's happening, so we can replicate it in other areas. But one of the things he also made mention of is, because I'm a tree farmer, I have a lot of growth and too much shade on my farm. I need to prune the bigger trees that was supposed to be shade trees for the cocoa. And I use a lot of mango, avocado.
Right. Now that's the thing, because years ago they were using other trees.
Yeah.
But then using the mango and the avocado and citrus, it's a you also get revenue from that too.
Exactly.
Whereas the others are not
Exactly.
getting any revenue from it. Yes.
But one observation, and I don't know what can be done to cure that, is the fact that citrus seem to have something affecting it. Because when you plant citrus, after, I would say about within 10 years, you need to think of doing a replanting before 10 years.
In fact, just to mention to you, there is a tree crop program that hopefully to start soon in the ministry, because we have a lot of diseases in citrus. If you notice, our citrus production has gone down considerably. There's citrus greening, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So there's something coming on, so you'll get to know about that one soon.
Citrus is affected because I have a lot of dead trees on my farm.
Yeah. Another thing, when it comes to tree crops, including cocoa, you need to have a maintenance program. You need. Your pruning has to be key, and your pest management has to be on top of thing. Has to be timely, and of course your to fertilize, because you must have a proper fertilizing regime to assist you for production, and you have to use the right formula, the right ratio for your for thing. So I don't know if we still have what they call a tech pack, which we can give out to farmers to give you exactly, tell you when to do what. I don't
Very
know.
important.
Yes.
Very important.
You understand? So I don't know, maybe when you began you never had that, but I think now it's imperative, because in any crop that you are establishing, you need to have what they call a tech pack.
Yes.
Yeah. So moving forward, so they're finished with you? Or they're still?
No, they do a bit for each farmer. For each farmer, you'd go and do some trees as an example of what to do. I don't think they didn't tell me they were coming back to. I suppose they'd go to other farmers, because Region 4 has a lot of farmers in Region 4.
All I know, based on what the project manager said to me, in this project you'll get rat bait, fertilizer, and what you call the pole pruners, right? The long.
No, we didn't get that.
They would have that down the road, fungicides, weedicides, and a chainsaw. That will be used after the project is over, so that they would. So if you need to use those implements, you can get them. It can be made available for you to use.
Oh, you mean the person who is doing the project would have those things as tools?
It will be available within at the regional level, extension level, and then you can get access to it.
That would be helpful.
Based on what they have taught you thus far in this project, only this continuation of it,
right.
And you'll take it there. But let us look at the Angers fermentary, which has been sitting there for a while. Give us a little history on that.
Well, during my stint as president of Premium Cocoa, Pat Joseph was the first president, and then I succeeded him, and then he decided to work along with me, and he became the treasurer. We did a very good job, because Jeff in the end told them he would only leave the money with the organization if myself and Pat would return on the executive. And unfortunately, myself and Pat had enough, and we were tired. But the other persons who were there, they did not continue to do what was expected of them, so the monies had to be returned. But the fermentary, we made sure before all of that was done, the fermentary was completed, the units were commissioned, because the units could hold up to 7,000 pounds of cocoa in any one run. That's what it can carry, 7,000 pounds. So, and dry. So what happened, when I realized the volume, and we were not at that volume yet, and government would not pass the facility to Premium Cocoa, instead sent it to tender, and we worked along with it all the time. With Eden Compton. Eden Compton, we would support him all the time. So when the people from the EU came, we would attend meetings with them and offer suggestions and share with them our experiences. Because the boards on the local market from local wood, that's very good for doing cocoa fermenting. And we recommended how the boxes should be done to avoid any metal contact, so the way they had to be constructed. And unfortunately, that was not followed in the first instance, so those boxes were rejected by us. But what happened is, the boxes which we recommended and the wood to be used, that in the end was done. But when we looked at the whole thing, we felt it was unsafe for us to take the fermentary, the entire complex the way it was, because it didn't have burglar bars, security bars. So they decided they would install it, but then they wanted us to pay for the use of the place. And the members of the organization felt, well, we had offered all that advice. We worked from inception, we've been seen it is commissioned and all of that. I even tried to encourage Hotel Chocolat to use there for, to help us so we could offset the cost. But Phil said no, he would not go into it. He would do something differently. If he ever have to do that, it would all be stainless steel stuff. He would not go into what we're doing there. He think it would compromise his quality.
Okay.
So as a result, he fed out of it. He said no, he would not be interested in going with us into it. And the government decided, well, okay, in that case, they'd send it for tender. And that's the last I know, it was going for tender, because he didn't actually call me and ask me if Premium Cocoa would not be interested in wanting to lease the place. And I told him, well, I'm not in a position right now to make that decision because I'm not on the executive. So the members on the executive would be the one, like the president, the vice president, and the rest of the executive would have to make that decision. For what I learned in the end, that members of Premium Cocoa were not interested in doing it. So I think it was actually leased to somebody in the end. I'm not too sure who exactly and what the conditions are.
So Premium, that executive is still in existence, that group?
Well, the group is there because we have a chat. The group is there. It's not doing anything but just coordinating the sales of cocoa and who could be who is generating cocoa. And we would give them information as to what days Hotel Chocolat is coming and how many times for the month they would be coming to buy. And the period, the time and the day. So that's what we actually use the chat for offering information that would assist farmers in better caring for their field. Well, there was some statistical data that was actually shared on the chat by Richard Shingleton Smith and Roddy Clark. I did not have a chance to look at it, but it seemed very valid information showing the data way back before bananas, even before during the sugarcane era, the banana era, that when it was really beginning to boom in the late 50s, 60s, and how the production was and what the income from the banana to the island was, and then the cocoa and what the cocoa was doing, and cocoa was doing very well from what I heard a recording from Roddy. Roddy was saying he didn't realize cocoa was doing so well on the island.
And I believe if we take it from that level now, what we're doing now, I'm thinking that we can get to back to that level and to increase our production, and of course locally we should have enough for processing and also for export. I believe so. I think
that's where it's heading, because I'm surprised Hotel Chocolat perhaps is more privileged to give you statistical data on how many containers they probably ship out
very good.
Yearly. I'm sure they would provide you with the data.
Great.
And the local persons I know, like Kako St. Lucie, they're doing quite a bit.
We're doing very well, I must say. We have a lot of persons doing their own production, processing, and they're doing very, very well.
And Cocoa Carib also is doing very well.
Well, thank you for being here, man. We have come to the end of the program, short and sweet.
Yes.
So I want to wish you success with what you're doing, and then, of course, contribute to the GDP of your country.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Before I end, I just want to remind persons that those of you in the banana industry probably would know of Dr. Edsel Edmonds. He passed. He was involved in the lab in Roseau, Winban. Right, he was a nematologist, and what he wishes to be cremated, and of course the ashes to be a fertilizer for bananas in St. Lucia. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. Thank you for viewing the program, and remember, agriculture is our business and eat fresh, St. Lucia's best. I'm Philip Sidney saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the move. Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.